everyone. I'm Mohan. I'm the Vice President and General Manager of HPE Ezmeral Software Business Unit. And I'm here today to talk about how data and analytics is basically transforming the way we interact in a hybrid multi-cloud world. With me today is the CEO of one of our partner companies, BigID. And I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Dimitri.
Thank you, Mohan. Thank you, everybody. Hello, my name is Dimitri Sirota. I'm the CEO of BigID. We're a 7-year-old company focused on providing operational control and governance around data in a hybridized, regulated world.
So to kick off the conversation, what I'd like to begin with is, at HPE, we've been on a journey, right? And as we think through what is the value we can provide to our customers, we realize that, many of our customers are adopting hybrid cloud or multi-cloud as their preferred deployment and operationalization paradigm in the future. However, building and developing to hybrid cloud, multi-cloud is actually very, very difficult, right? So from an HPE Ezmeral software point of view, our focus is becoming more and more around how do we provide the key software foundations that help our customers develop and deploy applications to manage data, as well as build out workloads in the data engineering, data science, AI, ML, BI reporting type of use cases, right? In their production grade environments for a hybrid cloud, multi-cloud future world, right? So Dimitri, to begin with, what I'd love to get a sense of is what does hybrid cloud mean to you, and what are you hearing from customers when you talk to them about the kinds of requirements they have?
Yeah, sure. So we historically have dealt largely with large organizations that have mixed environments for a variety of reasons. Data center, smaller edge clouds, various public clouds, even SaaS applications. And the reality is that very few companies are ever returning to a place where they have everything in one place, where we go back to this kind of world where everything was in one mainframe, one file share, one SQL server. The reality is that everything's going to be distributed and decentralized, and it's going to reside and live in a variety of places. And so I think it obviously becomes critical to how do you make the right data available to the right individuals, the right applications, through kind of a fabric conversation. But as part of that, you also need the various controls that you could layer over that. So I think from our customers' perspective, the reality is that there are larger institutions. They will never be purely on just one cloud. They're going to be mixed, right? They're going to have instances where they have edge environments, whether it's local data centers or kind of implementations of cloud near to them under their control. They're going to have multiple clouds in terms of the big public infrastructures. They're going to have potentially SaaS applications, and again, they're interested in how to get the right data to the right purpose at the right time, or the right team at the right time. And this is, I think, something that they talk to you about, and obviously where we come in is providing some of the additional governance and controls on top of that.
No, absolutely. I think you're hitting on something very important here, right? Which is, even in my customer conversations, there are 2 or 3 key themes that come up over and over again, right? One of them is, I think, hybrid and multi-cloud is the future, because none of our customers want to be locked into any given cloud provider. But more importantly, they care about predictability, right? Think about predictability, think about governance, think about sovereignty. These are issues that are becoming more and more important, especially in large enterprise, given the macroeconomic, geopolitical kind of environments out there and stuff, right? So it's almost as if we're going back to a renaissance where I think a decade ago, cloud showed us that, you can really simplify IT. But now cloud is starting to get so complicated where we're at a point where on-prem is not looking as, on-prem mature systems are not looking as, as daunting as they used to. More importantly, however, I think there's a lot of awareness in our customer base around different types of data and different requirements on top of data here, right? And this is where I think vendors like BigID, in some sense, have a distinctive value proposition in providing the ability to simplify governance, for example, and such, right? So would love to hear from you. What are some of the big challenges, or what are some of the top concerns customers have when it comes to data and governance and sovereignty?
Yeah, so look, I think you touched on some of them, right? So sovereignty is clearly a bigger and bigger issue. There are countries in the world that disallow data to leave their nation border states. So you need to be able to both identify the the subject to whom the data belongs. Are they a resident of China or Germany or one of these countries? You need to be able to detect and inform about data that may be crossing a border. There are other regulations increasingly, a little bit like real estate where everything is local. There are regulations like in privacy, as an example, that could operate at a state level, operate at a national level, operate at a supra national level, like across the EU. And those have impact to organizations. Like, how do they comply, report on data that's constantly changing and evolving and moving? There are obviously regulations beyond just privacy and individuals, whether it's export control regulations like ITAR, whether it's PCI or HIPAA around healthcare, or whether it's around GLBA for Gramlici, or countless others. There's no shortage of existing and then new regulations that are getting added around breach response, around NIST, et cetera. And I think that creates a degree of complexity, right? It creates, especially for larger institutions that have diversity in terms of employee base, by location, they operate in multiple jurisdictions from a business standpoint, and they need to be able to control and manage and govern that data in this kind of global environment that still has kind of hyper local regulations and requirements, and that creates challenges. It creates requirements around hybrid cloud, as an example, and around the necessity for multi-cloud, because in some places people just don't operate. But yeah, I think data is becoming much more complex by, again, the kind of mixing of platforms where data could kind of reside, and then secondly, the kind of explosion of regulations, whether they're sovereignty or privacy or other, that they're needing to contend with.
I think that's again a very interesting theme here, right? Where what I just realized as you were speaking was, hybrid cloud is actually very, very attractive for highly regulated industries. Do you see any industry specific trends?
Yeah, look, automotive, right? I think because they operate in so many different jurisdictions, life sciences and healthcare, because they have not only research but sensitive data, research data, and healthcare data that belongs to citizens of different countries and different states. Financial services, obviously, always highly regulated, where you have not only internal audits that you could fail, but like in the U.S., multiple like the Treasury, the SEC, the OCC, agencies that regulate them. But there are others, right? Anybody that deals with a lot of consumer data, so retail, because they have to contend with various privacy regulations. And again, it's even in the U.S. There's no single privacy regulation. There's California, there's Virginia, there's Colorado, and that's just the U.S. And then of course there's other countries like Canada has a new privacy regulation, Singapore, etc. So yeah, I think almost every industry, like you look at communications, media, and technology, especially the technology piece, that garners attention almost on a daily basis, right? They're in the news. People are concerned about privacy. At the end of the day, when people, whether it's the regulators or whether it's from the bad actors that want to be able to exfiltrate and take the data, take information, they want to get the data, right? The crown jewels of the company. That is what a digital enterprise is about. And so again, in this kind of hyper globalized, hybridized cloud environment, where you now have this patchwork quilt of regulations, not only is there a challenge of getting the right data, getting the data in this kind of decentralized way to the right place, whether it's from a kind of a data store to kind of a data reporting platform or an AI platform, but secondly, the controls around that also becomes more challenging.
No, absolutely right. I think you're right. I mean, regulations is like a moving target, right? As we get more and more aware of the data we are collecting, as the users are becoming more sophisticated in terms of use cases with data, and the type of insights they're generating, it is becoming more and more important for us to provide guardrails around meaningful and ethical use of data of sorts here, right? And this is where I think, again, if you look at topics like data governance, sovereignty, like access controls, etc., these are all topics that I think are having a renaissance right now, right? And I think it's going to become really important to simplify how some of these capabilities can be front and center for the application developer. Absolutely, I fully align, and which is why I think we're partnering and so excited about our partnership with you guys. With that, I'd love to wrap this session. Thanks for your time, Dimitri.
My pleasure.
And
Thank
thank
you
you,
for having me
folks.
on. Thanks, Mohan.